Chapter 9, The Last Trick. High over the Everfree forest, a group of bat ponies flew through the air. As much as Celestia had wanted to bring her soldiers, Trixie convinced her that there just wasn't time. The elements needed to reach the Tree of Harmony as quickly as possible, and that ruled out a long trek on hoof through the forest. Traveling by air was much faster, and no one was better at flying through the darkness than Luna's bat pony guards. The problem was that the bat ponies had not gone unscathed in the previous day's battle. There had been no fatalities, but many of them were injured during their attack on the portal, some seriously. There weren't many left who were still well enough to fly. But the elements had to make do with what they had. A group of 15 bat ponies accompanied them on this dangerous mission. About a third of them were carrying elements. Pinkamena and Trixie didn't have wings at all, and Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy were not well enough to fly on their own. Rarity, though, still had the wings Trixie had made for her and had no trouble keeping up with the group. Applejack was the hardest to manage. It took 2 ponies to gingerly carry her, and Trixie was certain she was in great pain. But she never complained. Applejack knew that all of them had to arrive at the tree, no one could be left behind. Trixie felt very awkward riding on the back of one of Luna's guards. She fervently wished she could fly. Being an alicorn really has its advantages, she thought. Twilight must have loved it. To Rarity's great dismay, Trixie had left her beloved costume behind in Canterlot. Trixie claimed she didn't want it to get damaged in battle, which Rarity believed, but only partially. She had an uneasy feeling that Trixie was hiding something from her, but she knew Trixie would never explain what was really going on. After all, a magician never reveals her secrets. The air above the forest was dark, even though it was still mid-afternoon, and the forest was even darker, but that did not stop Celestia. She still remembered her old home where she had once lived 1,000 years ago. The princess led the way through the black, evil fog that stubbornly clung to the sky. Celestia finally stopped and flew over to Trixie.
"We're getting close. The Tree of Harmony is directly below us, and the castle is over there. Have you changed your mind about our strategy?"
Trixie shook her head.
"No, Your Highness. We really don't have a choice. We can't launch a frontal assault, we don't have enough troops. Our only option is to land right on top of the tree. If you could lead the way and scatter any guards that might be around it, that will give us the opening we need."
Celestia nodded.
"We won't have much time. The necromancer has surrounded himself with a reflective shield, much like the one that injured Luna. I know of no way to penetrate it, for any spell I would use would simply bounce back. If we do not activate the tree before he reaches us, we will be forced to abandon the area. We cannot fight him. He's protected? But how can you know that? I can't see anything from up here." "I can sense it,"
Celestia replied.
"He did this once before, in the distant past. Last time we defeated him by ringing a bell that he had not protected, but he has learned from that mistake. The crown that sustains his life is within that shield. If the tree cannot penetrate it, then we will be in serious danger. Do you know how to activate the tree?" "I've read Twilight's notes on it. Once all the elements are lit, or as many as are going to light, anyway, I'll hit it with the spell. If all goes well, the tree will emit a burst of light and drive the darkness out of the forest. If not, it will work,"
Celestia said calmly.
"I have faith in you, Trixie. You haven't let us down yet. At every turn your plans have worked and have dealt the necromancer blow after blow. I am confident that his defeat is near.
I wish I believed that, Trixie thought. But she didn't want to contradict the princess, so she just nodded. Celestia flew back to the front of the group. She then pointed a hoof at the ground and said something to the lead bat pony that Trixie couldn't hear. Then, all at once, Celestia shone with the brilliance of the sun itself. Light beamed out of her horn and sliced through the darkness. Celestia dove toward the ground, and the bat ponies followed a short distance behind her. Trixie held on to the bat pony she was riding for dear life. Celestia's light was so brilliant that it drove away the fog that surrounded them. Trixie then saw that the Princess of the Sun had hit her mark. Directly below them was the valley that held the tree. In front of the tree were dozens of conjured ponies, but they did not survive very long. The undead screamed in pain as Celestia's light pierced them. The spectrals tried to run, but it was a futile effort. They were quickly unmade and turned into vapor. Celestia landed at the front of the valley, blocking its entrance.
Hurry, girls!
The bat ponies landed close to the Tree of Harmony and the elements ran to it. All except for Applejack, who had to be carried. As the 6 of them took their positions around the tree, the 15 bat ponies rushed to Celestia's side. Their descent into the valley had not gone unnoticed. Trixie heard the rumblings of an approaching army. The necromancer knew they had arrived. Trixie looked up at the Tree of Harmony. The light had faded from it and the tree looked old and weak. It was in poor condition, but there was still some life left in it. She was glad the tree hadn't died. As the elements stood there, a magical spark shot out from each pony, except Rainbow Dash, and struck the tree. Light immediately began returning to it. First the symbol representing the element of honesty lit up on the tree, and that branch came back to life. Then the symbol of kindness turned from gray to pink. Generosity came to life next, followed by laughter. Trixie then gasped. The symbol for the element of magic had gone dark, but when it came back to life it changed. Originally the heart of the tree had shown a red star, which symbolized Twilight's cutie mark. Now it displayed part of Trixie's cutie mark. A magic wand. So I really am the element of magic now, she thought with great relief. But nothing else happened. The final symbol, the one representing loyalty, remained just as dark as the pony that bore that element. Here goes nothing, Trixie thought. Her horn lit up and a spark of magic shot out and hit the tree, but the tree did nothing. Trixie tried again, but it was useless. The tree simply did not respond. Applejack looked at Rainbow Dash.
Don't just stand there. Do something. Hey! This isn't my fault.
Dash replied nervously, knowing full well it really was her fault.
What do you expect me to do?
Pinkie Pie spoke up.
We need all of the elements, Dashy. That means we need you too. It's your turn.
Overhead an army of spectrals rushed to the edge of the cliff and galloped down the long flight of stairs that led to the valley. They would reach them within moments. Trixie knew that Celestia couldn't possibly hold them all off. The princess turned her head and looked at the blue pony.
We have to retreat, Trixie. We'll have to come up with another plan. I already have another plan,
Trixie said quickly.
Go. Take everyone and get out of here, but leave me behind. I'll fix this. I'll fix everything. I'll put Equestria back the way it's supposed to be.
Celestia looked at her in surprise.
What are you going to do? You cannot possibly fight off an entire army by yourself, and the necromancer's shield cannot be penetrated. This is one fight you cannot win. There's no time to explain. Get out of here! I'm going to go get our secret weapon. It's time to take extreme measures.
Trixie then teleport Ed out of sight.
Not again,
Rarity said nervously.
Why does she keep asking me to leave her behind? Where did she go?
Applejack asked.
I don't know,
Celestia replied.
but it isn't safe here. Bat ponies, grab everyone and retreat.
It only took them a few seconds to load up the elements and launch into the air. Celestia continued to emit light, which illuminated the valley and kept the spectrals from reaching the tree. When the spectrals saw the ponies take to the sky, they stopped their charge. Celestia quickly climbed higher into the sky, trying to get out of range of the sorcerer's spells.
We can't leave Trixie behind,
Rarity protested, as she hovered in the air beside the princess.
This isn't right.
Rainbow Dash spoke up.
You know, I don't see her anywhere. What does she think she's doing? Look!
Fluttershy exclaimed. She pointed a hoof down to the ground.
Is that who I think it is?
In front of the Tree of Harmony, a purple alicorn had appeared. She had a determined look on her face and she approached the army of the undead without a trace of fear. Her horn glowed with a brilliant purple radiance.
No way,
Rainbow Dash exclaimed.
Is that Twilight? But that's impossible. Where did she come from?
The army of spectrals halted its advance down the long flight of stairs. At its head was a conjured sorcerer, who also stopped dead in his tracks. He did not understand what was going on and he was not sure what to do next. This was not going according to plan. Twilight Sparkle approached the army with great boldness. She walked up to the sorcerer and looked him in the eye.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Twilight Sparkle, and I am the Princess of Friendship. I have come to talk to the Necromancer. You will stand aside right now and let me pass. If you do not, I will flatten all of you with the power of my magic. It's your choice. And believe me, walking over your twice-dead corpse really is acceptable to me.
The sorcerer hesitated and then reluctantly stepped aside. The army of spectrals parted and allowed Twilight to pass through their ranks.
Thank you,
Twilight said politely.
Smart move.
Twilight slowly made her way through the midst of the undead soldiers. She was in no particular hurry. Even though there were tens of thousands of them, Twilight ignored them all. The spectrals looked at her but none of them made a move. They were all cowed by this incredibly intimidating pony. Twilight knew she was in charge, and they knew it too. Twilight eventually made it through the army and reached the open area where the Necromancer was standing. As Celestia had warned, he was protected by a magical field of dark energy. She was surprised to see that the Necromancer did not look anything like what she had imagined. 1,000 years ago he had been a hideous blue goat with curled black horns. Now, though, he was little more than bones and dark magic. There was no flesh or muscles anywhere on his body. In fact, he looked vaguely like one of the spectrals. His attempt to recreate his physical form apparently didn't go very well, she thought. On his head she saw what she was looking for, a black crown. In the center of that crown was a glowing maelstrom sphere.
Hello, Groger,
she said casually as she stood in front of his shield.
Fancy meeting you here. How have you been lately?
The Necromancer approached Twilight but stayed within his protective shield.
Do my eyes deceive me? What are you doing here? You were dead. So were you, but here we are. Did you really think that a little thing like death could stop me? You underestimate me. I am vastly more powerful than you can imagine. But no one can come back from the dead,
the necromancer said nervously.
I was simply banished back to my own realm. You, though, truly died. Your corpse was buried in Canterlot. You mean you cannot come back from the dead? Your conjured ponies are just that. Tricks of dark magic. They are poor imitations of life. I, however, am different. As you can see, I had no trouble recreating my original physical form. Unlike you, who did a rather poor job of it. I have learned the secret that you tried in vain to find. You may call yourself the necromancer, but I have actually mastered that art. I know the secret to life itself, and I cannot be defeated. Then where have you been? Why have you been absent from the field of battle?
Twilight laughed.
Because you aren't worth my time. I don't know if you've noticed, but your invasion of Ponyville was defeated by a stage magician. That same stage magician, whose magic is as phony as a plastic bit, also managed to close your portals and decimate your forces. Why should I waste my time fighting someone who is as weak and pathetic as you? Believe me, I've got better things to do. True immortals have their priorities, you know.
Twilight then raised her hoof and tapped the defensive field that protected the necromancer.
That's a nice shield you've got yourself there. It is impenetrable,
the necromancer bragged.
Drop it. What?
He asked, startled.
Are you deaf? I said drop it. Why would I even consider doing that?
Twilight looked him in the eye.
Either drop that shield and let me in, or else I will flatten it and crush you into jelly. Or, you know what, maybe it would be more fun if you don't drop it. I would really love to have an excuse to pulverize you. Go ahead. Make my day. Do nothing at all. I dare you.
The necromancer hesitated. Twilight shrugged.
Fine. Have it your way. I was getting tired of this conversation anyway.
Her horn began to glow. The necromancer quickly dropped the shield. Twilight stepped inside, and the necromancer raised it again.
Smart move,
Twilight said. Rainbow Dash was riding on the back of one of Luna's bat ponies, which was hovering next to Celestia. Rainbow was deeply confused. But Twilight's dead. I know she's dead. I was at her funeral, for crying out loud. If she had risen from the dead I would definitely know about it. Besides, why would she come back right here, right now? Why not appear sooner? This seems awfully convenient. And where did Trixie go? Did she know about this the whole time? If she did, why didn't she say something? For that matter, where is Trixie now? This just doesn't make any sense. Unless... The truth suddenly hit Rainbow Dash like a ton of bricks. That's not Twilight at all. That's Trixie. She's just pretending to be Twilight. She's bluffing. But why would she do something that stupid? Rainbow Dash suddenly remembered something Luna had told them earlier. The necromancer's life was maintained by the maelstrom sphere in his crown. If that sphere was destroyed, the necromancer and his armies would be unmade. But as long as he was inside his shield he was untouchable. Then Rainbow remembered the other thing Luna had said. The maelstrom sphere that maintained the necromancer was the most powerful and unstable one of all. When it was unmade it would explode with terrific force and destroy everything that was nearby. An icy black fear grabbed Rainbow's heart. Trixie is trying to get as close to the necromancer as she can so she can unmake his sphere, but when she destroys it the explosion will kill her. She won't have any time to get away, and her magic is too weak to risk destroying it from a safe distance. That means Trixie is going to sacrifice herself to save Equestria. The ultimate act of loyalty. The full realization of what was going on hit Rainbow. Trixie wouldn't have needed to do that if the Tree of Harmony had worked. The reason the tree had failed was because Rainbow hated Trixie and refused to forgive her. Trixie had spent the past few days bravely trying to save Equestria in spite of all the hatred aimed at her. She had risked her life to save her friends, and now, thanks to Rainbow's stubbornness, she was going to die for them. Something inside Rainbow broke. She suddenly realized what an awful pony she had been. She should have been there for Trixie. She should have cared about her and tried to help her. But Rainbow didn't, and now Trixie was about to pay the price. No, Rainbow thought. She felt absolutely terrible. Tears welled up in her eyes. Please don't do this, Trixie. Please don't. I'm so sorry. I've been such a jerk. Just please, please don't die. I can't lose another friend. Celestia looked over at Rainbow and saw that she had regained her normal color once more.
You know, don't you?
The princess whispered. Rainbow looked at Celestia. Tears ran down her face.
Can't you stop this? Can't you do something?
Celestia shook her head.
Even I don't have the power to penetrate that shield. Trixie has found the only possible way to defeat the necromancer. I know I promised to save her, but it would appear I will not be able to keep that promise. But Rainbow, surely you must be happy about this. Isn't this what you wanted? Didn't you want revenge? Not anymore. I would do anything to save her. Anything. Oh, Celestia. What have I done?
Trixie, still disguised as Twilight, took one step closer to the necromancer. Now only 20 feet separated them. It still wasn't close enough.
Your plan was ill-conceived from the start,
she said casually, as she stepped toward him.
Surely you knew you would not succeed. After all, we ponies have dealt with you before. Did you not remember what happened last time? Did you have some strange desire to be crushed again? What do you want from me?
The necromancer asked.
I don't understand what you're doing here. It's simple enough,
Trixie said, as she continued to approach him.
I'll admit all of this has been fascinating. I studied you, you know, back when I was still Celestia's pupil. In fact, I wrote an entire book on you. The chance to see you in action, to see history come back to life, was simply impossible to pass up. One rarely gets an opportunity like that.
Trixie was almost there now.
So I've decided to give you a chance. The truth is, your magic is fascinating. I think there's room in this world for both of us. We shouldn't fight each other. Instead we should be allies.
The necromancer's eyes widened.
You? Wait, what? What are you proposing?
Trixie stepped forward.
Now, I won't lie. I'll admit I don't really want you to take over Equestria. I've become somewhat partial to this place. However, there are vast regions outside this land, regions that have absolutely no protection against your type of dark magic. I'd even be willing to help you. The two of us could divide up this world and rule it together. After all, Why shouldn't the strong take over the weak? Isn't that only natural?
The necromancer frowned.
Surely you cannot expect me to believe that Celestia would support this.
Trixie gestured toward the sky with her hoof.
You don't see her trying to stop me, do you? Come now. Why should we fight one another when we can cooperate?
Trixie took one last step forward. The necromancer looked at her in surprise.
Your proposal sounds acceptable to me. I did not expect to hear such wisdom from you. Perhaps I have misjudged you.
Trixie smiled. She was finally in range. Nice going, Trixie. That was the performance of a lifetime. You nailed it. In one massive effort, she gathered up all her magical energy and fired an enormous bolt of unmaking magic directly at the necromancer's crown. It happened so fast that the necromancer never even knew what hit him. This time Trixie didn't need to take a second shot. The maelstrom sphere in the crown shattered into 1,000 pieces and then exploded in a ball of violent and unstable magical energy. The protective shield collapsed, and the necromancer and his armies were vaporized. The force of the explosion violently blew Trixie off the ground and threw her high into the air. The shockwave destroyed her magical disguise, turning her back into a blue pony. It also shattered her bones and knocked her unconscious. She knew that would happen, but she didn't care. She had won. The great and powerful Trixie had defeated the necromancer and saved Equestria. In that last moment, before she blacked out, she was completely happy. Rainbow Dash screamed when she saw the explosion.
No! No 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 no!
Rainbow ripped off her bandages, leaped into the air, and soared to Trixie to save her. Rainbow's injured wings ached, but she didn't care. The pain meant nothing to her. She had to save Trixie at all costs. Even an injured Rainbow Dash was still much faster than Celestia, who followed right behind her. Rainbow grabbed Trixie in midair and halted her fall. That's when she saw just how broken Trixie really was. Her bones had been shattered, she was bleeding everywhere, and she wasn't conscious. Rainbow couldn't tell if she was breathing or not.
Don't do this,
Rainbow begged.
Please, Trixie, you can't die. Please don't do this to me. You have to live, do you understand? We can fix this.
Trixie's body briefly glowed purple, and then she died.
Ah, please, no,
Rainbow begged, as tears ran down her face. She held on to Trixie's corpse and looked up at Celestia.
You can do something, right? Can't you fix her? You promised.
Celestia shook her head. Tears were welling up in her own eyes.
I'm sorry, Rainbow, I truly am. I bear as much responsibility for this as you do, perhaps more, for I am the one who broke your spirit in the first place. But there is nothing I can do.
What neither of them knew was that it was not the end, for Twilight Sparkle still had one more card to play.